Welcome to Rapportkommentar Direkt. With me on link from England, I have the CEO of Paxman, Richard Paxman. Welcome back, Richard.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
And if we look at your figures for the first quarter, your revenue amounted to about 24 million Swedish kroners compared to 18 million during the first quarter of 2019. And EBITDA amounted to almost 6 million Swedish kroners compared to around 1 million the first quarter of 2019. Are you happy with these figures?
I think based on the current COVID-19 crisis, it's often difficult to hold on to those positive moments, but we are really happy with our Q1 figures as it shows significant growth. And I guess we should be really proud of our achievements and hard work. A good proportion of the growth was from the USA, and that really demonstrates the success of our activities that were done to grow revenues and increase utilization. So starting to see some payoff there. I think it's important and fair to recognise that a lot of that positive impact also came from foreign exchange differences. But even without that added benefit, the company did perform really well, and it was a very strong quarter, our strongest to date.
Yeah.
It is, however, important to understand that the impact of COVID-19 did begin to impact the company at the end of March 2020, and of course continues to do so. But I don't think we should let this shadow our achievements in Q1.
And I also noted that the group's net liquid assets amounted to minus 35.4 million Swedish kroners in comparison to minus 18.5 million during the same quarter last year. What's behind this increase?
So this is really the utilization of our funding or our loans. So the increase actually relates to investments we continue to make in the US market, which are really important investments. So our credit facilities have grown to capitalize on the growth of the US market. I'm sure you will have read in the report that we've actually got 600 systems in over 300 locations in 40 states in the United States of America. So really getting ready for when we start to see reimbursement, scalp cooling awareness increases, so we can truly capitalize on the investments we've made. We've also secured additional credit in Sweden as of February. And that's a 20 million SEK credit line. And very recently, we've been working with our UK lenders, HSBC in fact, and they have secured us another 13 million SEK plus stock loan facilities, giving us a real position of strength and resilience, not only through these difficult times, but then when we're fast-tracking growth later on in the year.
And if we then leave the numbers for a little moment, could you please summarize the last quarter for me? What did you get up to?
Good question. Time really has flown by in Q2. So Q1 seems a long time ago. In fact, I think 2/3 of the way through Q2 now. I thought it would actually take longer when we're in lockdown, but obviously not. So we've had a really active start to the year. We've attended a number of conferences such as Arab Health, Miami Breast Cancer Conference, a conference in Russia, which I think has really helped our activity in the Russian market over the coming months. We also launched our second clinical payer program in Washington, D.C., which was very, very well attended and some excellent key opinion leaders. And this really gives us a position of strength from a standpoint of not only being a leader in technology, but also the support we provide to our customers, to our expanding customer base, really keeping us at the forefront and pioneers in what we do. And then you may have also seen our latest websites, coldcat.com, our hair care website, which is a blog-based website, and then more recently our more corporate website. So a busy quarter.
Yeah, definitely. And as we got into a little bit before, COVID-19 has no doubt affected the world negatively in many ways. But how has the coronavirus hit your business?
I think it's very clear that the impact of COVID continues to be drastic for all of us. It's changing our lives in many ways. There's the immediate impact on the health of many and subsequent loss of lives, which is horrific. There's longer term potential health effects, which are yet unknown, perhaps for cancer patients, people with chronic illnesses. It's impacted us all on a social level. And, of course, ultimately, it's impacted us financially and economically. Before I go into any more details, I just want to say that our thoughts are with those who have lost people through the pandemic, and a bit of a shout out to the amazing healthcare workers who've continued to support so many through these difficult times. At Paxman, fortunately, we've remained safe and healthy, and we do continue to support our patients and their families. We're working fully remotely, although I am in the office today, and our production and dispatch team are, of course, here, making sure that we can still support our growing customer base. So revenues, of course, have been affected, both in terms of capital sales and income per patient, but we are performing better than expected, better than budgeted, based on our planning. So based on those drop in revenues, it was very clear from the beginning that we needed to make some large cost savings across all areas of the business. We've also had all employees working on short weeks, so reduced pay, of course, which is a huge saving. And we've also had benefit of the UK Job Retention Scheme and also the US Paycheck Protection Scheme. And both of those add substantial funding or support to the business. I think we've all been affected by COVID in some way, but I think it's really important to understand that I am very confident in the future of our business, and there's certainly a bright light at the end of the tunnel.
And the United States is one of the markets that has been hit hardest by the virus, and it's also one of your biggest markets. Do you believe that you will have to shift focus now and maybe look at other markets that hasn't been affected as much by the coronavirus?
Absolutely not. For me, the US has to maintain our focus. So we have to understand that this is temporary, albeit with some long-lasting effects. So I'm not trying to lighten that. But the US continues to be a key market for Paxman. The cancer centres are now opening back up, and they will soon start to see high levels of patient demand. There's been lots of delays in mammograms, new cancer patient screening, etc. Just basic trips to the primary care physicians. So ultimately, all those patients who have delayed potential new diagnoses will come in the coming weeks. So what it's important for us now as a company is to be there at a time of need, be as supportive as possible for our US customers, and really be ready to provide support to those patients that are going to be newly diagnosed. That's not to say we haven't been looking at markets where they haven't been affected and trying to focus efforts there. And that just makes good business sense. However, one of the markets most affected by COVID was Italy. And this week we are expecting a reasonable sized order from the Italian market. So in reality, although it seems sensible to look at particular markets which haven't been affected as much by COVID, we're still seeing positive light elsewhere.
And I also know that the National Comprehensive Cancer Network in the US, they have now included scalp cooling as a recommended treatment for people who are suffering from hair loss due to cancer treatments. What do you think this will mean for Paxman?
This is another huge step towards making scalp cooling a standard of care, not only in the US, but other parts of the world, like it is in the UK or the Netherlands. The NCCN are incredibly well recognised for the guidelines that they put out, the data that they collect to develop those guidelines. So it's a huge step for Paxman and scalp cooling in general. Not only does this mean that providers will more readily offer scalp cooling to the two guidelines that we're now on, it also has a really positive impact on payer decisions in terms of new policy making for reimbursement in the future. So this is a global recognised guideline. So not only does it have an impact in the US, as I've said, really could have benefit elsewhere.
It will be interesting to follow the developments there, definitely. And as you mentioned before, we are well in our way into the second quarter of 2020. What are your plans for this quarter?
So initially, it was crisis management and putting our COVID-19 plans into action, which already seems a long time ago. Our primary focus was the safety of our employees, of course, but at the same time, having the ability to support our patients and our customers. That meant there was a great deal of focus on our supply chain risk initially, and ultimately, of course, our financial risk, both of which we've been very successful in being able to safeguard. It's then been moving on to resilience. So we've been working on building resilience so that we have the strength after this to accelerate our growth when we come out of this period of uncertainty. And that, to me, is critical, that we are ready for it, because it will come. And ultimately, all of our activities, such as exhibitions, face-to-face meetings, have been cancelled. We're really embracing the digital world. I would have normally caught multiple flights by now to multiple destinations around the world, but have not caught a plane since February. So a big change in all of our lives. The launch of our new websites couldn't have been better timed in terms of the support that we've been able to give to patients. If you haven't been to colcap.com, I strongly recommend it. And we've also been running a number of Zoom meetings, webinars, Facebook Live events, and these have proved really successful, along with virtual training, commissioning, and installs virtually, which was new to us but worked very well. And we've had a much more focus on supporting our global partners. So many clinical updates, group meetings, sharing best practice, etc. So I think it's important to understand that we've learned a lot over these last few months. And although they've been challenging, there's actually been many silver linings from a work perspective and also a personal perspective. Much of these sort of new ways we're working now will be adopted longer term because there's been real benefit. Not only on the virtual aspects of things, we've really focused our efforts and continue to do on our reimbursement strategy. So that hasn't slowed down whatsoever. And our R&D programs continue to proceed, albeit at a slower pace. So still looking at the peripheral neuropathy device, working hard on the development of the device there, moving closer to our later model cap or our revised model cap. And then in addition to that, our topical product, which to me is incredibly exciting. So all in all, a busy Q2, much more to do, and still light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, thank you so much, Richard, for this update, and I look forward to talking to you again in the next quarter.
Well, thank you so much, and big thank you to my colleagues and my team and our investors, and again also to the healthcare workers. I wish everyone well and stay healthy and safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much.